So if you're like me and you enjoy using credit cards, then you're probably familiar with just how great Chase credit cards can be when it comes to the high value you can get when redeeming points for travel. But to unlock those valuable point redemption features, you need to have either the $95 Chase Sapphire Preferred or the $550 Chase Sapphire Reserve. Now the problem is you can only have one of these Sapphire cards at a time, and choosing the wrong one could cost you extra money. So how to choose between these two cards is something that I get asked about a lot, and it might be something that you're wondering yourself. That's why in this video, we're going to be looking at the Sapphire Preferred versus the Sapphire Reserve by going over a few key things that you need to consider to make the right choice. And we're going to break all this down in a very simple way because I actually think it's an easy decision when we look at all this info. So as always, make sure to drop a like down below and subscribe as well to help support the channel, but let's get right into this. Now the first thing to mention is that with both the Sapphire Preferred and the Sapphire Reserve, you're going to be coming out ahead in the first year no matter what because of the welcome bonuses that both of these cards can have. I'm not going to go over the current bonuses for the purposes of this comparison because these offers are always changing, but usually if you look at the value of these bonuses for each card, they're going to be worth somewhere between maybe $750 and up to over $1,000 depending on how you redeem those points, which we'll talk about later on. And that's another quick thing that I want you to consider as well, that if you're looking to get a Chase credit card setup like the Chase Trifecta with either the Sapphire Preferred or the Sapphire Reserve, then you should definitely be looking to use those cards for their travel redemption features and not cash back. That way you get the most value for those points. But anyway, as long as you're meeting those minimum spend requirements in the allowed time frame to get those welcome bonuses, the value that you get there is going to be much higher than the annual fees of both cards in year one. Now the next thing to consider is how you can effectively lower the out-of-pocket net cost of those annual fees. To do that, the $95 per year Sapphire Preferred is going to come with an annual $50 hotel credit that you can use when you book a hotel stay in cash through the Chase travel portal. Since most people that apply for this card will stay in a hotel at least once per year, I think it's very reasonable to value this credit at the full $50 value, which brings your effective annual fee down from $95 per year to just $45 per year. Now, I do like to mention that you should always be comparing the hotel prices in the Chase portal to other booking methods out there to make sure that you're getting a good deal. But for the most part, I'd say that in my own experience, I've seen these prices in the portal as being mostly competitive with other platforms. Then for the $550 Sapphire Reserve, there's going to be a $300 annual travel credit that you can use to apply to a variety of expenses that Chase would classify as travel. You can look these up yourself, but generally things like flights, hotels, buses, trains, parking, and a number of other things will automatically trigger this credit. Because of how easy it is to apply this credit over the course of a year to these various expenses, I would say that it's also reasonable to value this credit at the full $300 value as well. So this brings down the effective annual fee on the Sapphire Reserve from $550 per year to just $250 per year. Now, when we compare the effective annual fees of both Chase cards, you're going to see that it's much closer than it was before. However, there still is a noticeable gap of $205 between that $250 net cost on the Reserve versus the $45 net cost on the Preferred. That means that in order to say that the Reserve is worth it to get over the Preferred, we're going to have to look at some of the other features and benefits available on the Reserve that hopefully will give us over $205 in additional value to justify that extra cost here. And I think there's two main ways that you can make up for this effective annual fee difference without considering any of the other benefits of these cards, which we'll talk about later as well. So the first way is to compare the points earning categories on these two cards to see if your annual spending could earn you significantly more points on the Sapphire Reserve versus the Sapphire Preferred. And the second way is to see if the redemption features on the Reserve will get you more value for those points. So let's start by quickly looking side by side at the different spending categories on these two cards where you can earn Chase Ultimate Rewards points. Okay, now the Sapphire Preferred gets 5x points per dollar on travel booked through the Chase portal, 5x points per dollar on Lyft through March of 2025, 2x points per dollar on various other travel purchases made outside of the portal, 3x points per dollar on dining, including takeout and eligible delivery services, 3x points per dollar on online groceries, excluding Target, Walmart, and wholesale clubs, 3x points per dollar on select streaming services, which covers basically all the major streaming platforms that I can think of, and 1x points per dollar on all other purchases. Then the Chase Sapphire Reserve gets 10x points per dollar on hotels and car rentals booked through the Chase portal, 10x points per dollar on Lyft through March of 2025, 10x points per dollar on Chase dining, which is limited to participating restaurants depending on where you are. So I'm in Philly and I'm not seeing that many restaurants that I typically go to on Chase dining. But you also get 5x points per dollar on flights booked through the Chase portal, 3x points per dollar on various other travel purchases made outside of the portal, 3x points per dollar on dining, and 1x points per dollar on all other purchases. So if we want to look at the additional value that's provided decided to justify the $250 effective annual fee on the Reserve versus the $45 effective annual fee on the Preferred, then we're gonna have to look at these different points earning categories to see in what ways the Reserve is earning additional points at some higher rates. Now, the 1x points per dollar on all other purchases is a wash, and we really want to be using another card like the Freedom Unlimited for miscellaneous other expenses anyway. The 3x points per dollar on dining is also a wash, since there's no additional value in points from using one card versus the other. Now, for me, online groceries on the Preferred is not a category that I use at all, so I cross it out personally, but you might not cross it out if you do like to shop online for groceries, and if you do this, then this could be very valuable and make the Preferred the better option for you. Next, I'm also going to cross out the 10x points per dollar on Chase Dining, just because I feel like some people would use this every now and then, but it's not nearly available for all restaurants, especially if you don't live in or near a city. Then, because you only get 5x points per dollar on flights booked in the Chase portal with the Reserve, but you also get 5x points per dollar on all travel booked in the Chase portal with the Preferred, we can cross this out for the Reserve, since it would not be giving us any additional value from using one card over the other. Now, we can see that with the remaining categories, the most obvious way that we can earn more points from the Reserve versus the Preferred is through hotels and car rentals booked in the portal, and from Lyft, which all provide an extra 5x points per dollar when comparing the 10x points on the Reserve versus the 5x points on the Preferred. So as an example to show how we could value this, let's say that between all hotel stays and car rentals booked in the portal, plus all Lyft rides that somebody expects to spend money on over the course of 1 year, they are going to estimate their spending to be about $2,000 combined for all of these things. So they want to see two different scenarios on how those point multipliers will work with both of the Sapphire cards. At 10x points per dollar on the Reserve, for this $2,000 of category spending, you'll earn 20,000 Ultimate Rewards points. And at 5x points per dollar on the Preferred for this spending, you'll earn 10,000 Ultimate Rewards points. Now, at a value of 1.25 cents per point towards travel booked in the portal or towards pay yourself back with the Sapphire Preferred, those 10,000 points would be worth $125 in value. But the Sapphire Reserve actually gets a higher 1.5 cents per point in value towards travel booked in the portal or towards pay yourself back, so those 20,000 points would be worth $300 in value. That means that the same $2,000 in spending for Lyft purchases and hotels and car rentals paid for in cash through the Chase portal, that would be earning an extra $175 worth of points with the Reserve compared to the Preferred. But remember that the effective annual fee on the Reserve was $205 more than the Preferred, so in the end, you're actually still coming up a little short of justifying the higher effective annual fee on the Reserve. Of course, this is without considering any of the other benefits or features yet. So in this example, with just considering your spending, you'd be better off getting the Preferred. That way you still get those 10,000 points, which are worth $125, and that's still good value, and it's going to save you from overpaying for the Reserve card. Now, I know that was a lot of numbers thrown at you, but I just wanted to break this all down in one oversimplified example, because everyone's spending, of course, is going to be different, and everyone's going to be earning points in many different ways. But you can now take this example and plug in your own estimated spending. That way it hopefully gives you a good idea of how many points you might expect to earn from using one of these cards compared to the other. Now, like I said earlier, earning points at a higher rate is only the first part of the equation to help you decide if you'd be better off getting the Sapphire Preferred or the Sapphire Reserve. The second part of the equation is by seeing if you can get more value for the points that you've saved in your account by either redeeming those points for travel in the portal or by using pay yourself back, and by taking advantage of the 1.5 cents per point value on the Reserve versus the 1.25 cents per point value on the Preferred. So let's say that from welcome bonuses and from spending and other things that you've done with these cards and from other Chase cards that you might have as well, you've now managed to accumulate 100,000 Ultimate Rewards points in your account. Well, 100,000 points at 1.25 cents per point on the Preferred is worth $1,250 towards travel in the portal or towards pay yourself back. But 100,000 points at 1.5 cents per point on the Reserve is worth $1,500 towards travel in the portal or pay yourself back. So in this example, when redeeming 100,000 points, you'd get $250 more of value by having the Reserve over the Preferred, but you'd only be paying $205 more of an effective annual fee like I talked about before. So now you're actually coming out ahead by having the Reserve, again, just by considering this one factor of having higher redemption value for your points. But I do want to point out that something like this might only apply to you in 1 year of having this card and not every year. What I mean by this is that maybe you saved up 100,000 points as a one-time thing for this year, and so you can only justify the higher cost of having the Sapphire Reserve for this 1 year. Then maybe next year you don't plan to have a ton of Ultimate Rewards points to redeem, so the annual fee is much harder to justify. Well, luckily, this is where one of my favorite features of these cards comes into play, which is that you can actually upgrade or downgrade these cards to another Chase credit card within the same family that also earns Chase Ultimate Rewards points. So if you got approved for the Sapphire Reserve Reserve this year to take advantage of some of its valuable features, but then next year comes around and you know you're not going to get as much value anymore, you can just call up Chase and ask if they can downgrade you to the less expensive Sapphire Preferred. And you can basically do the same thing the other way around. If you get the Preferred first and then later on you decide that you want to upgrade to the more expensive Reserve, just call up Chase and ask if they can do that for you. Of course, that is assuming that you can get approved for the Reserve in the first place with its higher credit limits and other things like that. Or if you're tired of paying annual fees, you can just downgrade either one of these cards into a no annual fee option like the Freedom Flex or the Freedom Unlimited. So my point is that you have options to move around from card to card and you don't have to lock in an annual fee for years and years to come. And that's why my thoughts are that whenever I'm eligible to get approved for any Sapphire card, I usually just lean towards getting whatever one is offering the best welcome bonus. It's best to just choose one of these cards and then move on, because honestly, you really can't go wrong with either. You just don't want to overpay for the more expensive Reserve based on some of the things that we talked about throughout this video. I honestly think the Sapphire Preferred is going to be the best option and the easy decision for the majority of people watching this, because it's more affordable and it still gives you really good value with its points earning categories, its benefits, and its redemption features. And these redemption features include the best option for redeeming points that I haven't even talked about yet, and that is transferring those points out to different travel partners. Now, both the Sapphire Preferred and the Sapphire Reserve give you the exact same ability to transfer these points out to different travel partners that Chase has at a 1-to-1 ratio, where you can often find ways to get 1.5 cents per point, 2 cents per point, or even much higher than that, depending on how you optimize your strategy. As a side note, I made a full guide on how to redeem Chase points to get maximum value while also taking advantage of transfer partners, because I know it can get a little bit complicated for some people. So I'm going to link to that video at the end of this one as I wrap up on how to decide between these two Sapphire cards. Now, since this 1-to-1 point transfer feature is the exact same on the $95 Preferred and the $550 Reserve, this is kind of maybe lean more towards the Preferred over time. That's because using these transfer partners has allowed me to get much more value for my points, and it's pretty much the main reason why I have a Sapphire card in my wallet right now. So I might as well go with a card that has the much cheaper annual fee, because I do have other travel credit cards that give me lounge access and other travel benefits as well, so I don't really need all of that on the Reserve. But speaking of lounge access and other travel benefits, I wanted to quickly touch on these because I know that sometimes it can be tough to put an exact dollar amount on these things, but they can make the more expensive Reserve worth it for you. So the Chase Sapphire Reserve comes with Priority Pass, which gives you access to a variety of airport lounges that many people find very valuable when traveling. You also get a credit to be reimbursed for the application fee to things like Global Entry and TSA PreCheck. Some travel benefits like that, combined with higher points earning categories and better points redemption rates on the Reserve, could make this card better for you than the Preferred if you travel a lot. I mean, if you travel maybe once a month for work or just to get away, and you normally stop and grab some food and drinks at the airport, then saving on those things by going to an airport lounge instead could be worth a lot to you. Also, both the Sapphire Preferred and the Sapphire Reserve have no foreign transaction fees, primary auto rental collision coverage, trip cancellation and interruption insurance, trip delay reimbursement, and some other coverages like that. I'm not going to get into the exact details of this stuff in this video because, of course, for most people, insurance is not commonly used every day. It's really just there if you need it. But it is valuable. So with that said, like you might expect from having a higher annual fee, the Chase Sapphire Reserve is basically going to have slightly better coverages when it comes to these things. And definitely do make sure that you research stuff like this more if you do happen to travel a lot. But again, if you're traveling many times per year, then I think the Chase Sapphire Reserve is worth it anyway, especially if you plan to redeem a large amount of Chase points in a given year, you plan to use Lyft frequently, or you plan to book hotels and car rentals through the Chase portal often. However, if you plan to mainly redeem your Chase points by transferring them out to different travel partners, you don't plan to spend that much money on any Sapphire cards anyway, you have other travel credit cards with decent benefits, or you want to take advantage of a potentially higher sign-up bonus on the Preferred, then I think that the Sapphire Preferred is the right card to go with. To keep it simple, for most people out there, if you're even questioning whether the $550 per year price tag on the Sapphire Reserve is worth it, I would say for you, if you're questioning this, to just go with the cheaper $95 per year Sapphire Preferred instead. Then after having the Preferred for a year, if you really do decide that you want the Reserve, you can always just call up Chase and ask for an upgrade if you can get approved. Like I said, I personally have the Chase Sapphire Preferred because I'm mainly taking advantage of that 1-to-1 point transfer feature, and I'm very happy with having this card. So I'm curious about what all of you think about the decision between the Sapphire Preferred and the Sapphire Reserve. What one do you have, or what one are you planning to get? Let me know down in the comments to share your thoughts, because that always seems to be helpful for others watching this who are trying to make their own decision. And since we talked a lot about redeeming Chase points here, make sure to go check out this video next that I mentioned before, where I go over my full guide to redeeming Chase points for max max value. But as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.